Absolutely nobody saw this one coming. In the middle of the night, while most fans were already winding down after a busy day, Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics were deep in the war room, cooking up a move that would shake the foundation of the roster and send shockwaves through the league. JRUE Holiday has officially been traded to the Portland Trail Blazers in exchange for Anthony Simons and 2 second-round picks. That's right, Simons is now a Celtic, and what makes this move so fascinating is not just the player swap, but everything it says about where the Celtics are going, what they value, and how they're planning to navigate the complicated new financial landscape of the NBA. Let's get one thing clear right out of the gate: this wasn't about basketball only. It was about dollars, years, windows, and building a team that can stay elite in a league where the second apron is now dictating so much of front office strategy. We're talking luxury tax, cap flexibility, contract control, the less flashy but absolutely crucial elements that define sustainable success in the modern NBA. And Boston just made a power move that might look like a step back at first glance, but actually sets them up for longevity without necessarily compromising their championship window. Now we all remember what JRUE Holiday meant to this Celtics team. He didn't just play a role. He was the executor during that championship run. Forget the stats for a second. Anyone who watched the playoffs saw it. That clutch steal against Indiana, that lockdown perimeter defense when it mattered most, he was the anchor. When the waters got rough, the veteran presence with the calm intensity that championship teams always seem to have. But the reality is he's on the wrong side of 30. And his contract, upwards of $32 million per year, was becoming a massive roadblock in Boston's financial roadmap. There were whispers, sure, but nothing concrete, and then, out of nowhere, boom, gone. Back to Portland, ironically, where he landed briefly last year in the whole Damian Lillard shuffle. But let's talk Anthony Simons, 26 years old, scoring machine. For a long time, he was a bright spot in a dark stretch for the Blazers. Playing in Portland, where the team's direction has been hazy at best, Simons had the freedom to evolve into a legitimate offensive threat. We're talking about a guy who has averaged at least 19 points per game over multiple seasons, showing flashes of elite shot creation and microwave scoring ability. Was it on a bad team? Absolutely, but that doesn't mean the talent isn't real. Simons can fill it up, and now he's walking into a structured, disciplined system in Boston, something he's never had in Portland. Under Joe Mazzulla, with Brad Stevens pulling strings behind the scenes, there's a real chance that Simons becomes not just a scorer, but a more complete player. That's the bet Boston is making here. At 6'3", he's got decent size for a combo guard. The big question is defense. Can he hold his own on that end in the playoffs when every possession matters? And when teams target the weak link over and over again, that's going to be his challenge. But the Celtics seem to believe that within their culture, with their structure, and surrounded by veterans who know how to win, Simons can level up. And if he does, Boston might have just pulled off one of the more quietly brilliant moves of the offseason. And here's where the contract stuff gets interesting. JRUE Holiday was locked in for big money over the next couple of years. Over $70 million across the next 2 seasons. That's a huge burden under the new CBA, especially for a team like Boston that's already deep into the tax with multiple max contracts on the books. Anthony Simons, by contrast, has just 1 year left on his current deal. A very manageable $27 million that opens up so many doors for Boston. If things work out, they can look at a long-term extension on terms that make more sense for their payroll structure. If not, they have flexibility. They're not boxed in by long-term financial commitments, and that's a luxury few contenders have. And let's not forget those 2 second-round picks. To the casual fan, they might seem like throw-ins. But if you've been paying attention to how Brad Stevens operates, you know that second-round picks are assets he loves to collect and flip. Whether it's moving up in a future draft, stashing a player overseas, or sweetening the pot in a future trade, second-rounders are chess pieces. They don't win you the game, but they give you options. And in the modern NBA, flexibility is everything. Of course, there's emotion in this trade. You don't just swap out a core player like JRUE Holiday without a sense of loss. He was beloved in the locker room. He brought toughness, professionalism, and that rare ability to elevate in high-pressure moments. Fans connected with him quickly because of how hard he played and how committed he was from day one. Watching his highlights from last season, the energy, the instincts, the leadership, you can't help but feel a pang of nostalgia. But the NBA isn't sentimental, it's ruthless. And Boston, in moving off Holiday now, is trying to be proactive instead of reactive. They're looking at the bigger picture and understanding that holding on to long can be more damaging than letting go early. Financially, this trade provides a bit of breathing room, not a massive amount. We're talking roughly $5 million in savings for the upcoming season, but every dollar counts when you're this deep into the tax. And more importantly, it gets them out of the long-term commitment to a veteran guard whose best days might be behind him. That's not a knock on Holiday. He's still a very good player. But when the efficiency starts to dip and the quickness just isn't quite there anymore, paying over $30 million per year becomes a tougher pill to swallow. Now there's been talk, plenty of it, about Boston's next moves. This trade doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's one piece of a larger puzzle. The Celtics still need to figure out what they're doing with guys like Kristaps Porzingis and Sam Hauser. Those names have come up again and again in trade rumors, and there's a growing sense that Boston might not be done. They're clearly trying to reshape their cap sheet while keeping their core, Tatum, Brown, and White, intact. But the possibility of a bigger splash is always lurking. Could they move on from someone like Porzingis if the right offer comes along? What if they get blown away with a package for Derek White? That's the thing. The Celtics are listening. They're exploring. They're open. This isn't just about saving money. It's about setting the table for sustained contention. In the past, teams would ride out a core until it fell apart. But now you have to constantly retool, reimagine, and reconfigure, or you get left behind. Brad Stevens gets that. That's why you make a move like this now, before Holiday's value dips, before the roster becomes unmovable, before the tax implications cripple your ability to make deals. And there's also a bit of a reset happening here, a pivot to a slightly younger group. Simons is 6 years younger than Holiday. He fits the timeline of Tatum and Brown a little more cleanly. He gives you a different look offensively, more creation off the bounce, a different rhythm in the half-court, more juice in transition. Sure, he doesn't bring the same defensive pedigree, but Boston might be betting that their system can cover for that. With elite defenders already on the roster, they might not need Simons to be a stopper, just to hold his own and make shots. And let's be real, there's a certain risk in every trade. Maybe Simons doesn't click in Boston. Maybe the loss of Holiday's veteran presence is felt more than expected. But doing nothing would have been a bigger risk. The Celtics are trying to walk that tightrope between remaining a title favorite and keeping enough flexibility to stay that way for the next 5 years. That's not easy. It requires hard decisions. This was one of them. And what makes this even more intriguing is the timing. We're right on the doorstep of the NBA draft. Moves like this usually signal that more are coming. The Celtics could be positioning themselves to get involved in draft night trades. Maybe they package some of their seconds. Maybe they move Porzingis for a pick and a contract that fits better. Or maybe they surprise us again. Brad Stevens isn't showing all his cards just yet, but this trade was a message. The Celtics are not standing pat. They just won a championship. They're at the top of the mountain, but staying there, that takes foresight. That takes courage. And most of all, it takes the willingness to part ways with guys you respect deeply when the timing is right. That's what this move was. It wasn't a panic trade. It wasn't a reaction to anything. It was cold, calculated roster management and potentially the start of a series of moves that retool the Celtics for the next phase of their dynasty chase. So now the spotlight turns to what's next. Will Brad make another bold call? Will someone like White or Porzingis be the next domino? That's the tension hanging in the air now. Celtics fans are holding their breath, wondering if this was a uneoff or if it's the start of something bigger. And that's what makes this moment so compelling. The story isn't over. Far from it. In fact, it feels like the real drama is just beginning. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Whispers from deep within NBA circles suggest a monumental shift could be on the horizon for the Boston Celtics, a move that would send shockwaves across the league and fundamentally alter their championship aspiration. Multiple sources speaking on condition of anonymity indicate that the Celtics front office is seriously exploring a trade involving fan favorite guard JRUE Holiday. If these rumors hold true, it would signal a radical overhaul of the roster far beyond what many anticipated for the upcoming season. The notion of trading Holiday, a crucial defensive anchor and a calming veteran presence, might seem audacious, even counterintuitive given his impact on the team's recent success. However, the burgeoning chatter suggests that the Celtics are keen on a more revolutionary approach to team building, perhaps aiming to inject new blood, acquire additional draft capital, or target a different kind of offensive firepower. The exact nature of the proposed deal remains shrouded in mystery. with various names being tossed around in hypothetical scenarios. Though nothing concrete has emerged, this potential move isn't merely about swapping one player for another. It reportedly signifies a deeper strategic decision by the Celtics to reshape their core. Could this be a play to acquire a younger star with a higher offensive ceiling? Or perhaps a calculated gamble to shed salary and gain more flexibility for future moves? The possibilities are endless and the speculation is rampant. Should a Holiday trade materialize, it would undoubtedly mark a new era for the Celtics. It would force coach Joe Mazzulla to reevaluate his defensive schemes and offensive sets, potentially ushering in a faster-paced or more perimeter-oriented style of play. The leadership dynamic within the locker room would also undergo significant changes, placing more onus on Tatum and Brown to guide the team. While just a rumor at this stage, the sheer volume and persistence of these whispers suggest there's more than smoke to this fire. Celtics fans still basking in the glow of a successful season should brace themselves for a potentially seismic shift. The upcoming offseason could be far more dramatic than anyone in Boston imagined. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.